Good morning, everybody. If you can like the video, share it, read the disclaimer. Just give it a few moments here till people start pouring in. All right. Can everybody hear me well? I just want to get a audio check. And then can you see the screen all right? All right, make sure you like the video, subscribe, share the video, get it out there, please. That's all I ask. It is Wednesday, 17th of January. And let's get into today and what I am looking at personally. Let me know if the music's too loud. I don't think I have it turned up really loud at all. So just let me know. All right, let me break down today. You guys can see the charts very clearly. You're able to adjust your quality correct between 1080p and I think even 1440p. The music doesn't matter, Roosta. It's fine. Okay, good. I had somebody tell me yesterday that the chart was blurry, and I didn't know if that was on my end or if that was on their end, if they just had to personally adjust it. So, let's look at today, right? What are my thoughts? What is going through my brain currently before this open? So we had retail core sales come out about an hour ago, and the reason I'm bringing your attention back to the daily is because look at the last 3 days in the closure of price. Right, we've closed indecisive. That's what these candles are. Doji candles are indecisive. They're wicking into this inversion fair value gap. Right, we closed above it and we dropped back down into it. I was talking last night on the daily log about the bodily closures of these, how they're kind of telling a story to me, at least, that I would still elect to see higher prices out of here. And I know a lot of people even that don't believe in these concepts, they're probably wondering why. Well, A, we have a lot of buy-side liquidity left up here. B, the inversion fair value gap and the way the bodies are closing, to me, it's still telling the story. If you watched last night's log, I talked about the higher time frames, things that we were looking at. If you're just coming to these live streams and you're not watching the daily logs, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. I can't stress enough, the daily logs are so important. Just because they don't have a clickbait title and they tell you, here's an ICT strategy that's going to make you a bunch of money, those are extremely valuable, even more valuable than live streams, because they're teaching you exactly what to look for, how to prepare for the next day ahead. It's exactly what ICT did for us charter members, and it's what I try to replicate. So if you're new here, I post a daily log every single day, recapping the day, what happened, and then the expectations for the day ahead. So this is going to help train your eyes, lending experience, etc. So if you're just here for signals and not trying to learn, you're doing yourself a disservice. I don't know why you would be doing that, because I'm graciously trying to give as much knowledge for free to help you guys. So I just wanted to say that. Looking at the 4-hour chart, marked this up last night. This is our inversion. If you extend that out to the right, we're still residing inside of it. I'm not going to mark it up. We're inside of a really weird range, right? We're inside of a consolidation. So you have to be very careful inside of these conditions. You can't just push your model or push your luck. In these type of conditions is where you need to reduce your risk and reduce your expectations and actually, expect a loss, expect to be wrong, because we're not in a clearly one-sided directional market, right? We're just moving back and forth. And this has to due to a lot of different variables. I'll show the SMT chart here and dollar index. Those are two kind of crucial points today that I'm looking at. In here, we dropped off lower with core retail sales, and if you look at the lower time frames in here, we took out some sell side liquidity. If you look at the 1 hour, we are just dropping back down into a reclaimed fair value gap in here. And this bullish order block, if you mark out just the bodies, we're dropping right down into the mean threshold. Right, so I know there's a lot of different dotted lines. This is something TradingView just added, I believe, is this 50% on these rectangles, which I do love. So I'm going to leave it like this. So the mean threshold of that bullish order block. We came down from core retail sales, dropped lower into some sell side. The mean threshold of this bullish order block may lend support. Same with this reclaimed fair value gap. I'm just going to keep my focus here. I don't particularly want to see lower prices, and I'll explain why. But particularly these clean relative equal highs up here, I don't believe they're just going to be left. At one point, I believe they're going to be ran. I just don't know when. Let's look at some lower time frames in here. So in a 15-minute time frame, you don't see that 1 hour fair value gap, but I have it in the back of my mind. Underneath this low, there's some sell side, and then we ran on the news event driver this morning the sell side liquidity here. It's just not an extremely favorable session right now. Things could clear up, they could get a little bit better, but I don't particularly see it as a favorable session. And how would you know that? Well, look at the daily time frame. If I can't clearly look at the daily time frame and I can't look at it and visualize or see or expect where that daily candle is going to unfold, then to me it's low probability. And there's other factors I can bring over here, the SMT chart. If we're looking at Dow right now, let's go out to a daily time frame. Look at where Dow is at in comparison to ES and NQ. So if you look at this low from Monday, the 8th of January, right? Look at where Dow is at. Dow is underneath its low, while ES and NQ are nowhere near it. So what is that? That's a bullish SMT. Now, is that automatically confirming to us that we're bullish? No. There needs to be some type of confirmation of that. SMT is just a confluence to an idea that you've already preconceived. So I have to wait for more information. I'm willing to see if today how Dow reacts to this BISI in here, because if it wants to reject away from this and print that bullish SMT, and then this continues higher and all these continue higher, that would be a good, expectation to have coming into today. But we're just gonna have to see. I need to wait for more information. Looking at dollar index, it's very important that we look at this as well before we go into the session. So I've talked about this basically all week. This is from yesterday, extremely bullish. So I don't know if this continues to make headway moving higher. That's going to move NQ, ES, and Dow lower, which we're seeing right now, right? Now, this could be just a fake rally, and we could see, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, we could see this entire bodily closure lower today. That's a possibility. And the reason being is because we're still inside of this fair value gap here. So even though we're above it right now, just thinking about it, this could potentially collapse lower. And the reason I'm stating that is because of A, the weekly time frame and the order flow, which I really don't prefer. We move past the mean threshold of this bearish order block here. That's basically the last point of interest for me. I would really prefer it if you just take from the body to body. We're basically at the mean threshold. So from here, I would really want to see a collapse lower. Looking at the daily time frame, we're inside of that premium, inside of that fair value gap, and we're also inside of a breaker. So all of these down close candles will act as your bearish breaker. We have a high, a low, a higher high, and a lower low. But right now I'm just paying attention to this. Really what's grabbing my attention would be the relative equal lows built up from last week. So if we look here, much like NQ and ES and everything else, we're inside of consolidation. Dollar was inside of consolidation last week, and we took out buy side liquidity. This is potentially an AMD, which is accumulation, manipulation, and then distribution. So you have accumulation here. And you see how we left the relative equal lows. We're moving up into a higher time frame premium. Inside of those higher time frame, the weekly, the daily, fair value gap, order block. So to me, what this is doing is it's just setting the high of the week. That's just my expectation going into today. I could be wrong, but to me, this looks like a very beautiful AMD pattern where we accumulate, we leave the sell stops, take out buy side liquidity, move up into a higher time frame premium, and then we drop it lower. That's kind of what I'm visualizing today and the rest of the week. Is that for certain? Is that going to happen? Obviously, I don't know yet, but you have to have some type of expectation and at least something going into the session. So hopefully that's clear as far as the kind of market overview and what we're going into today. So share the chat. Everything's still good? You can hear me? Okay, good. Thank you. Sometimes when you guys don't talk, I get nervous that the stream is down. We just opened up, so let me get focused here. With all of that being said, what would I be doing today? I'd probably just be sitting on the sidelines until I saw some type of confirmation for a drive higher. Otherwise, I really don't want to do anything. It just seems like a low probability type of day. And the main focus of the stream is to wait for the silver bullet. And especially on days like this where you don't really know where price is going to head, you have an idea, you know, you have a couple confluences, but there's no concrete evidence. It's not like, you know, sticking out like a sore thumb. We're going to clearly move this direction. If you know that going into the session, then wait for the silver bullet, because those first 30-minute window usually is a lot of manipulation. It's a lot of indecisiveness, and you can get caught up in it. So for a newer trader, or even myself, waiting for that first 30-minute window is very crucial, because by the time the silver bullet comes, the real move either A, has already unfolded, or B, the manipulation has already happened. So for me, the silver bullet's really, really key. And you can see here we're dropping off lower, and not towards my expectation that I was expecting. So I'm just going to sit and chill until I have more information, which is probably by the silver bullet. Big RTH gap. So yes, we have a fairly large RTH gap in here. Let me see if I can. There we go. I know it seems like a lot on the chart. Look, I know price is falling off right now. Do not worry. Do not fear. Just let it do its thing. You don't need to chase things just because it's moving. So there's a fairly large RTH gap. If this thing really is bearish, it would probably just leave it open. So I'm going to leave it on here. Sorry, I was looking at my phone. Sell side at 17,753. That wouldn't make any sense. You're probably thinking 16. I just saw your message. Yep. So this old low here has sell side liquidity. And do I feel any type of way about this fair value gap? That means nothing. I try to stress that during these live sessions. Is it's so easy to get caught up in hindsight and be like, man, that's such an easy short. But everything we just discussed, nothing was pointing to me that I should be trying to short this. And does that mean I suck as an analyst? No. It just simply means I didn't know. If you guys can, just make sure to like the video. Push it into the YouTube algorithm. So let's just play devil's advocate. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be looking for longs today. I don't see that reason. I mean, with this open, this is where changing your analysis and kind of in real time, especially during a session, may be difficult for some newer traders and even myself at times. It could be a difficult thing to do because obviously you need to have enough evidence to let go of that old analysis. And you do that by seeing how it's no longer respecting one side. And there just isn't enough evidence for me. If I wanted to go long in here, there was no evidence for me to do so. To me, it's clearly bearish, and I just don't know, particularly at least on the daily and these higher time frames, really where we want to unfold. So we have a, I'm looking at the chat. Yes, Alex, I am. We have a small fair value gap underneath here on the daily. So I mentioned this first thing on the stream. If I can't see where the daily is going, then to me it's lower probability. I can't figure out where the daily candle is trying to unfold. But if I can figure out where it's trying to unfold to, then it's a lot easier for me to pick a side, right? So just looking at price and the way we opened, looking at dollar index is still driving higher. We may want to drop into this, and I may have to scratch that idea of going higher and attacking the buy side, which is fine. And looking at the 4 hour, we're coming into this reclaimed fair value gap here, and we have one right underneath it. So what I'm doing is I'm figuring out targets, I'm figuring out areas to where if I wanted to go short today, where could I do that? What would I be targeting? So we have a couple inefficiencies here. We have another one, I just don't want to make it cluttered. We have one in there as well. So at times you may leave a certain buy side liquidity pool. It may be left for a later point in time. So if you're ever wondering that, with ICT's concept, sometimes you leave liquidity pools. It doesn't always have to be ran at that particular moment in time. It will be ran. I just don't know when. That's why, not pushing too hard is very, very key. Just to reiterate, in here, the 4 hour came off of this fair value gap, displaced lower. Let's look at the 1 hour. So we have sell side underneath this low, right where the discount area of that reclaimed fair value gap is. And then we have a basically wide open fair value gap down here. So if this thing truly wanted to expand lower today, then we could look for these lower targets, and that at least gives me a goalpost to shoot for, right? Let's look at a 30-minute, 15-minute. Some reasons on there. So once we get underneath this low here, then I would be looking at the sell side at 16,659. I mean, things could change. I'm still waiting for the silver bullet. We still have about 20 minutes till it, so. You see on the 15-minute. Reacted off of that fair value gap here. And we dropped lower. So to me, it's just about patience right now. I'm waiting. Cabello, good to see you here. Thank you. Hope you are enjoying the live stream. What about weekly CE? I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you're asking questions, please, I don't mean to be rude, just please be very direct and describe what you're talking about. Because weekly CE could mean, I mean, that could mean anything. First macro, very lucrative, yeah. And I talked about last night, if you were on the daily log, weekly well, I know it's the weekly candle. I mean, it still doesn't give me enough information. I don't know what you. I mean, you could be talking about the fair value gap, the CE of it. You could be talking about this is not an order block yet, so we can't look at that. Would be the mean threshold. So. Digital Nomad, thank you. I appreciate all the support. I mean, funny enough, or ironically, I think trading live really, really helps me because I'm able to think out loud. So, I know obviously for a newer student that's something you don't want to be doing, but for me it's actually very efficient. It's usually what I'm doing by myself anyways. Obviously I'm not talking out loud, but in my own thoughts, it's basically everything that's running through. So in here on the 5 minute, we dropped lower. We have a SIBI, sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency, resting here. Again, I'm waiting for time. To me, time's the most important to me right now, which is waiting for the silver bullet. If this thing ended up collapsing off of this and going short, it is what it is. I don't care. I just find today a little bit lower probability, so I'm going to wait for the silver bullet. In general, that's usually what we're doing here overall. That's where really discipline comes in, because if you have the model and you have these rules set out for yourself where you're waiting for the silver bullet, but you continuously keep trading before the silver bullet or after the silver bullet, I mean, that's just a discipline issue. And that can go for any of your rules. You have a rule to only enter off of fair value gaps, but you keep doing order blocks or breakers. Again, that's discipline. You need to nip that in the butt and really only follow your rules. So on the 1 minute here, SIBI up there. You can look at the open, reacted off of this fair value gap here. So we dropped underneath the sell side at 16,753. So I'm going to keep this 1 hour reclaimed fair value gap on, because if we close underneath it, then we can treat that as basically a very large inversion level for us. Really what I want to do on the 4 hour here is kind of pull this down. Where is this coming from? I think that's the 1 hour. Oh no, this one is. There we go. So, getting a viewpoint. This is what, if you ever are standing on an analysis and, obviously it's not going the way you planned it, we didn't take anything, but that's where you just need to switch gears and figure out where would the other targets be. Where is price really trying to draw into right now? So we have this reclaimed on the 4 hour fair value gap here, and we have an open one underneath us. And the reason why we're getting this huge drop today, and even this week, if you look at dollar index, it's really moving higher. So it's an inverse correlation to index futures. And if dollar is tearing off higher, then I can't be extremely bullish on indices. I can't do that. So I'm not surprised that we're dropping off lower in here, even though I wanted the buy side. I just have to kind of switch gears, right? And that's what I'm doing currently with you guys, is I'm trying to figure out where is price really trying to draw into. Well, it looks like the sell side here would be a good point. Once we close, right, we still have 14 minutes. If we close underneath this reclaimed, then we can treat that as an inversion. And if price digs up into that on the next candle on silver bullet, then we can treat that as an inversion level to go lower to target the sell side here, and then this discount fair value gap down here. Look at the daily candle, it's just barely, I mean, we opened, barely wicked up, and then we just dropped lower immediately. Let me put this on. Oh, there it is. So if everything continues as such, going into silver bullet, then I would be looking at 16,657. So the number one thing you need to be doing in your analysis is finding the draw on liquidity. If you can find the draw on liquidity and you have enough evidence with higher time frame narrative, you have intermarket relationships, dollar index, you have SMT confirming it. Once you have that, then all you have to do is plug in your model. So the number one thing you need to be doing is finding the draw on liquidity, and then if you can just plug in your model, it's very, very simple. And what is your model? Well, it just depends on what you particularly like. For me, I like a fair value gap. In this instance, I would just be looking for, I have this posted on my YouTube page, a continuation pattern. So all I'd be looking for is a fair value gap inside of a premium in order to go short. It's that simple. But you need to find the draw on liquidity first. That's the hard part. That makes sense? You can see that's an example of an IOFED. But IOFEDs, if I'm not certain of the draw on liquidity and I don't really know where price is going, I'm not going to enter in on IOFED. It's a little bit more risky to me. Well, correct. But finding draw on liquidity also means determinate bias. Draw on liquidity and bias and narrative, they're all the same meanings in a sense. And this is where I think just having good psychology and experience overall, I don't feel any emotion right now. I'm trying to relate back to my older self and how I would feel watching something like this, because I'm trying to put myself in a lot of people's shoes. I would feel a lot of fear. I'd feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like the price is moving, I'm not participating, I'm not doing anything. Man, I should be in here. I should be doing something. It doesn't mean anything. Just because price is moving does not mean you should be participating in it. If your model didn't print, then you didn't do anything wrong. You followed your rules and your discipline. If I start coloring outside my lines of discipline, that's going to bleed into everything else. And I'm going to start not following my rules and my discipline when it matters. So in here, if we even look at a 1 minute, I mean, what entry really was there? There wasn't anything besides off the open, which we couldn't really clearly determine that we were going lower today off the open, for at least for me. So we didn't do anything wrong. So far, it's just a game of patience. And if I don't get an entry today, then I did everything correct. And I talk about this basically every single stream. The analogy of drawing the line in the sand and telling the market it's going to meet me here, and if it doesn't meet me here, then I do nothing. I stand still. It's the number one thing. If you don't have boundaries to your own model and to the market, man, you're just a feather in the wind. You're just floating around this market, just taking buys and sells, and I mean, you're never going to be successful. I'll blatantly put it. You're never going to be successful if you do not follow your rules and your discipline and the things that make you successful. Hey, bro, what's good? Good to see you in here. You are truly the OG, man. You were really, I haven't seen you in a long time. I hope you're doing well, bud. I know a lot of you are asking probably really good questions, and I see them, but it's a lot of explanation. I'm not trying to answer a long-winded question. I think I might start introducing on the weekends like a Q&A That way we can sit down and I have time to properly ask these questions or answer these questions with full detail. Because, I mean, I'm in a live session. I'm trying my best to just concentrate on price rather than answering questions. Mike, yeah, it it just depends. I mean, to me, there's the mean threshold of candles. I would rather look at wicks if you're looking at that. I mean, if it's an order block, which on the weekly there's no bullish order block yet. We didn't close above that old down close candle, so it's not an order block yet. So I can't really look at the mean threshold of it. If we're looking at, example of wicks, that would be the CE of them, 50%. Wicks will act as gaps. I do like looking at wicks of previous days and weeks. Yeah, Rista, I mean, man, I've gone through so much pain, so many losses and lessons just alone sitting here that eventually, if you really want this, you're going to win in the end, but um, there's nobody else that's going to help you. I mean, you could continuously keep failing for the rest of your life if you do not fix the things that you're doing wrong. I mean, it's the cold hard truth. You're not guaranteed this success. You're not guaranteed this at all. So you really have to be hard on yourself when it comes to these rules and making sure you're following them. John, kindly, I ask, please do not message multiple times in here. I see your message, all right? So really what we're doing is we're still waiting for the silver bullet. We're inside of the macro that happens right before the silver bullet. And if you're wondering what that is, a macro is just a small time in a window of time that price will move rapidly towards liquidity or wherever it needs to go. Not always, but it does happen. John, I'm not going to make this a long answer. Look, man, your model is your own model. I can't tell you whether your model is profitable. I can't tell you whether that works for you or not because that's your own personal model. You have to see if it works for you. And if it works for you, I mean, who cares what anybody else thinks? I don't care what anybody else thinks of my models. I know they work for me. So if it works for you, man, I mean, don't ask other people's opinions. So this is the small window of time in here, 20-minute window. Yeah, I do. I do need some mods. I didn't expect to grow this rapidly, to be honest with you. I think, what are we at? 300 viewers. Yeah. I mean, we started off last week under 100. I mean, less than a week, we're already at 300. So I didn't expect to grow this rapidly. I'm very grateful, very appreciative of it, but I'm probably going to need to have some people in here to clean it up, which I do have some very good friends who can do that, which are watching live. Thank you. Thank you, Art. Yeah, I mean, that's such a famous quote. I mean, if you let somebody into your own model, I mean, yeah, it's not your model anymore, and you allow critique, you allow opinions to get into your own model. And why would you do that? You know what works for you. So, I mean, I have my models publicly, but I'm experienced enough and mature enough. I don't care what anybody else's opinion is because I know it works for me. I have enough data and proof and money to show that it works for me. So, so looking at, we have about 5 minutes till the close. I'm going off of Nick, your comment in here. I talked about it. Since we're closing underneath it, we can treat this as an inversion level. So with me, I just change my colors. Orange is typically it's an inversion level. So aim for 2% every day. I don't. If ICT said that, I mean that's that's pretty outrageous, to be honest with you. That's a very high expectation. I mean, you could aim for 2% in a week, even 1% in a week. Heck, even 0.5% in a week is fantastic. I mean, if you're doing that on a $100,000 account, you're doing $1,000 a week. That's 1%. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to complain with $1,000 a week. I mean, that's $4 grand a month. So I don't think ICT said, yeah, a week. Okay, 2% a day is crazy. I mean, for him, yeah, it's probably normal. I bet he's doing way more than 2%. Yeah, exactly. I mean, 6% in a month. I mean, heck, man, I would lower the expectation to 2 to 3% a month. I mean, you're making very good money as long as you utilize these prop firms and you build your capital up. I mean, you could be doing 0.5% to 1% a month, doing next to nothing and making way more than somebody with a salary who's working a normal job. Like, I tell this to all the new people: aim for 2 to 3% a month. If you can do that, if you can aim low and then build your consistency up, that's the best way. Because if you start having unrealistic expectations, like you're supposed to be shooting for 8 to 10% like these prop firms. I mean, that's so completely unrealistic. It's outrageous. Like to look when we used to have time limits on these prop firms, looking for 8 to 10% is insane. It's some people don't even do that in a year. All right, so let me focus on the actual charts in the chat. I mean, there isn't much going on in here, but as we roll into the silver bullet, what could we be looking for? Well, I see that in about a minute 35 on the 15-minute, we're going to form a Sibian here, coupled with this inversion from the hourly. So to me, a high probability trade would be looking for price to reach up into a premium. So wherever this low forms, for me, it would need to reach up into at least the 50% equilibrium of that dealing range in here. And this is another point too. I see some people in the chat, I'm not trying to predict a low in here. I'm not trying to go long in here. I'm just going to stick on side with what I have planned out for the day, which is looking for lower prices, because I can't predict a low in here. This thing may just drop off lower right into our target. I'm not trying to pick lows. I'm not trying to pick bottoms or tops, right? So for me, waiting for some type of retracement would be the highest probability for me, rather than me trying to pick a low and be an all-star. If you look at dollar index is gravitating higher as well. So to me, it's the reason why we're getting this rapid displacement lower today. You can see ES and NQ are pretty in sync. YM is still being a little, I would say, fickle. It's just not willing to displace lower, much like NQ and ES are. Wolf, again, market maker buy and sell models, you need to have things narrative and things paired with it. Just because you could see something doesn't mean it's valid. Because market maker buy and sell models are much like SMT to me. I mean, it's with any concept or any PD array. You need to have things aligned with it. Just because it's there doesn't mean it's valid. So we may just drop right into the sell side. And that's perfectly okay. There's going to be days where price just runs without you. And there was no entry. There's nothing you could have done. But the main takeaway you need to do is congratulating yourself for sticking to your discipline and to your rules and not doing anything. There's always going to be another day. There's always going to be another week, another month, another year. Greetings from Germany. Thank you. Greetings from the United States. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, if everybody can just like the video and subscribe. I forgot to put in the description today my Twitter, which it's all right. And I believe there's some ad running right now. So I just skipped some ads for you guys. Thank you, thank you. Singapore, good to see you. I said this yesterday, it's very crazy. The internet's crazy how we're all different parts of the world, but yet still participating in the same thing. It's truly fascinating. We do have one of the greatest jobs, quotation jobs in the world. Ukraine, good to see you. France, Romania, Kenya, wow. It's crazy, man. Hope you guys are enjoying. Kuwait. I just had a family member there on deployment. Australia, Chile, Indonesia. Wow. Sweden, Russia. Crazy. Wow. Pakistan, UK, India, Spain, Morocco, Greece. Jeez almighty. Texas. Good to see you, partner. Somalia. Wow. Crazy, man. Crazy. Yeah, I honestly thought my viewership would be more United States based, but it seems like we're all over the world here. Yeah, right, man? Jeez almighty. It's crazy. Yeah, dude, can you hear my heater? I'm sorry if you can. I mean, it's, what's today? What's the temp out? I wonder if it's going to say down here. So what does it say, NASDAQ? We're looking at NASDAQ. Oh, it's only 3 degrees today. It's not in the negative. What in the world? Danny, what's good, brother? Hope you're doing well. Have you heard of Lebanon? Yeah, of course. So I'm looking at YM. Look at YM on the daily, and look at the way it's reacting to this fair value gap in here. I'm not trying to completely abandon the idea of the buy side, but I don't see enough evidence in here. I don't see. Let's put it this way: if you're ever looking for evidence of one side or the other, much like a judge or a detective, if I had to make a case for us going higher today, I don't see anything on the left side of the curve for us to react off of, such as a bullish fair value gap, an order block. I don't see anything in here for price to react off of to move higher. So when I look at the right side of the curve, the bearish side, well, I could see the bearish inversion fair value gap here. I could see on the 15-minute time frame, this Sibian here coupled with the inversion resting inside of a premium to target the sell side liquidity. With dollar index moving higher, that to me would indicate a price moving lower. So I can't see a bullish scenario. I don't see that. Even though we have buy side liquidity resting above us, I just can't make the case for it currently. There's nothing there. And you have to remember the daily time frame. We're in a very tight range. And I still really don't like this daily candle and the way it's unfolding. So I may do nothing today. I don't have a very large feeling or confidence as where price wants to gravitate towards. We could dig down into here. That could be a possibility. So I'm just going to wait for a little bit more information. And I think that's a good point, is you don't always have to press on the market, meaning if you can't clearly see something, and this may be harder for newer students, but as you get more experienced, if you can't clearly see something, then it doesn't mean you have to participate or try to force your hand and try to figure out what price is doing. It just means that you simply don't see something today. Your intuition and your subconscious is going to tell you, if you spend enough time on these charts, it's going to tell you whether something is high probability or not, or whether something's in your favor. Most of the time, if you're tuned in enough, you can listen to that, because it's just years of pattern recognition that is built into your brain. And if you can listen to that, it'll be really, really helpful. Is there a plus breaker there? If we go down into a 1 minute time frame in here, so we have a low, a high, a lower low, then a higher high. So this could be a bullish breaker, but I'm not looking to long this, because I would particularly like to stay on side with what I'm predicting, which is to look for lower prices overall today. If this thing turns out to be extremely bullish, right, and I miss this long down here, I particularly don't care. To me, it's just a premature entry. I would rather not do that. I'm not trying to pick bottoms or tops. And again, that's my particular style of trading. It may not be yours. So looking at the 1 minute in here, I'm just going to mark a few things up. We have an old SIBI there. And then one up there. I'm reading the tape. Yeah, and that's exactly what these lives are meant to be. They're not meant to be, signal providers, even though I am taking trades. The whole main point is to just read, basically getting experience from somebody else. And you're learning to read the chart. And it may not, in the moment feel like a lot, but you're going to see after, a few months and over a year that your pattern recognition has got significantly better. And that's what ICT was doing for us last year, and it significantly, even for a charter member, helped me, because he was lending experience day after day. The only way to teach, in my opinion, is to do it in a live market and predicting basically every single day and lending that experience, because I can't wrap up these concepts in one video. I can't do that. There's too much, and there's too much information every single day for me to do that. It's the reason ICT teaches the way he does, because the only way you can do it is through the hard lessons, which is basically sitting down every day. So, let's see here. I'm going to look at some other things. Yeah, even looking at ES, I could not make the case for that thing going higher. Looking at the 4 hour and the daily, there's too little information there. Like, look at the 1 hour on ES. There's nothing on the left side of the curve that price is reacting off of. If anything, I see ES reaching into the BISI on the 1 hour at 47.48 and 47.39. Look at the for value gap above you, Nick, on the 1 hour. Even the 15-minute. The order flow is bearish. There's no particular reason, just because we have buy side above us, for that thing to completely reverse. We're in a decoupled market currently, and what does that mean? Well, let me just pull it up. So look at ES is up top, and Q's in the middle, YM is at the bottom. Look at what YM is doing compared to the other two. YM is moving higher while these two are moving lower. So anytime you have these out of sync with each other, that's a decoupled market. And that can particularly be a lower probability environment because they're not moving in sync with each other. I would want YM to be moving in sync with NQ and ES. And you would need dollar index in support of that as well, where it's moving in tandem with each other. Anytime you see that, where it's particularly always YM, because it's just kind of like it's the weird brother or sister of the three, and it's moving in the complete opposite direction. And to me, I don't particularly want to see that. I need it to be moving in sync with the other two. Looking at dollar index in here, I could pull this down because I know I keep referring to it. And this is where I'm kind of just sitting on my hands today so far. Even if it digs up into this SIBI, I'm just going to wait for a little bit more information. Because as we discussed in the beginning of the live stream, we're inside of this daily SIBI, right? Resting inside of this premium. So even though we're up here right now, if this thing closed lower today, then that would possibly push everything else higher. And with YM moving higher, either A, that's a complete Judah swing on YM, or that's actually the leader of the three, and the other two will follow suit with them. So anytime you have something decoupled, it either means that that one is simply manipulating one side, or B, it's actually leading the three, and the other two are just lagging behind it, and it will move back into sync with the other two. So you have to be cautious of that, and it's to me it's like a flashing red sign to kind of sit still, don't do anything, wait for more information. And dollar index in here, we have a lot of sell side liquidity resting underneath us. So I have conflicting biases right now. It's you're seeing it in real time. Really what that means for me is just to sit still, don't do anything. If that makes sense. I'm trying to get it as clear as possible across to you. Because we took out buy side liquidity there, inside of that daily SIBI premium, and if this dropped off lower in here, then that would push the other two, ES and NQ, higher, and then that would follow suit with YM. So do you see how you're constantly weighing options, you're constantly decision making in your analysis? It's not always one-sided, clear, we're going here, we're going there. I'm constantly in real time weighing options, decisions, seeing with the current information what price is doing, and it's utilizing everything. I can't just look at NQ and just look at a 5-minute time frame and tell you. That's too little information. You have to be looking at everything. And it may seem like a lot of work for a newer student. It seems like a lot of information to take in, but if you continuously keep practicing it, it just becomes easy. Exactly, Rusta. I mean, if I can make an argument for both sides, then I can't do anything. I can't just flip the coin and see which side works. It just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. So, what would indicate to me to do something? Well, I would probably need a large displacement if we're bullish. Either A, I would need to see enough information on dollar index to see that it would want to go lower. I would need to see displacements above old SIBIs on NQ, and those be treated as inversions. There's a lot of things that need to be at play. Yeah, exactly, Danny. I mean, for some people, that's, it may seem like it's too much, or it's, that doesn't sound like an actual trader, but that's exactly what you need to be doing here. And these are just unique situations, because in days where everything is in sync and everything's easy, the higher time frame draws clear, NQ, YM, and ES are all in sync with each other, dollar index is in sync with them, it's super, super easy trading. But when you're in situations like this, then I have to stand still and really do nothing. I can't just flip a coin and press into the market because it's going to hand me my ass. Have I ever been to the Netherlands? I have not. I have not been out to that side of the world yet. I would love to. Let's look at the 1 minute time frame in here. Just kind of get a read. So we talked about this breaker in here, which so far it's holding. And this is where, to me, I'm just not trying to press into that. Even though an entry or a PD array is there, I have too little information. I don't have enough evidence for me to want to long in here. If we were on higher time frame, really clear bullish PD, really clear bullish price action, we had everything else in sync bullish for indices, dollar index was dropping off lower clearly, then this would be, to me, a clear entry pattern to go long. But do you see how I don't have enough information to do that? So even though your entry or model forms, you need to have the surrounding evidence to support it. If I were to trade London, would you trade FX or indices? I would particularly trade FX because indices are not, they don't move a whole ton. Occasionally they do during the London session, but particularly I would trade Forex. They're way more prone during the London session to move. And I traded Forex for first probably 2-3 years of my career, and then even last year I was dabbling in it while futures were kind of in consolidation. That's what's going on. My music is not playing. So 334 viewers. I appreciate everybody who's new here. What I need to do, I didn't do it yesterday or today, is plug my Twitter. So if you haven't already, follow me on Twitter. I will put it in the chat. DomFX, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Where did my music go? There we are. I know you guys can't hear the music, but I have it on my end. YouTube started to copyright me, so it's kind of stupid. I wish ICT was still on Twitter. I'd definitely be tagging him to come to the stream. One day it will happen, sooner or later here. So let's look at a 15-minute time frame in here. That orange box is that 1 hour inversion. Even if this thing traded up into this SIBI, I would have needed at least a premium to be met. I don't particularly like an IOFED in this situation. So compare yesterday to today on the IOFED. He's on Tanya's streams. Yeah, he loves women traders, which, I mean, man, they're very, very low in the amount of women traders out there. So I respect it, man. I mean, she's got more balls than 90% of these people in this industry that want to claim they're good at trading. I mean, she's out here live trading in front of thousands of people, so all respect to her. Maybe he thinks he's a charter member and says, nah. Hey man, I paid him good money. You better come see me. No, if he never does, I don't particularly care. It is what it is. So you see in here, if I was trying to prematurely pick a bottom, then you know that's very, very difficult. I'd rather just sit still and do nothing. I appreciate that, Roosta. Only time will show. I don't need to scream from the rooftops. Just show it by evidence. Yeah, I'm sure he will too. We're moving very rapidly. I mean, last week we were under. I've only streamed probably about 6 days so far, and we were under 100 viewers last week, and now we're holding 300. So, very, very good. We'll be at 1,000 by the end of the month. At least that's my goal. Anyways, let's get away from the chat in here. Oh, brother, I would love to. I would love to. Just shoot me a DM on Twitter. I'd love to connect with you. I hope you're seriously doing well, man. Art of Charting is seriously an OG. That dude knows his stuff. So we have a fair value gap in here coupled with the breaker. Again, I'm just not doing anything because I don't have enough information. I don't want to pick a bottom, nor do I want to short this. So this is where trading can be very boring. A lot of patience, a lot of discipline. It's a cold, hard truth and reality of trading is you have to sit still sometimes and do nothing. And it may be boring for a viewer because there's not action, I'm not doing anything, but this is what happens in a real live setting. If you look at YM, which I'll pull it up because I know some of you don't have enough information. So if you look at YM in here, we have a bullish breaker. So we have a low, a high, a lower low, then a higher high. And this last up close candle is the bullish breaker. So if this thing starts to move higher and these start to follow suit with it, it would give me a little more information that they want to move higher. Dollar index would have to start moving off lower as well. But for me right now, it's to do nothing. Yeah, it could be, but Art or Danny, if you guys feel free to plug your socials if you want. I mean, if you feel comfortable doing that, I mean, you're more than welcome to, man. Both of those guys in here are complete OGs. They know exactly what they're talking about. So if you need more reference, if you need more people to help you, I always recommend people that have been around a long time that know what they're talking about. Because right now in this community, after ICT really went public, there's a lot of new influencers that haven't been around that long, and they have a lot of following and clout per se, but they don't particularly know what they're talking about. And I don't care about the following. I just care about people being taught correctly because I see so much stuff being taught incorrectly. And obviously a newer student doesn't know the difference. So I'm trying to guide people to the right people and the right information. That's the reason why I started doing these live streams and Twitter and all of that. exactly, A7. I mean, my older self would be trying to push so hard in these environments. Like, you don't always have to be doing something. 90% of this job is really just waiting and doing nothing. Like, it's very boring. It's very, very boring and monotonous. But think about if you work a job. You go to the job and you do the same things over and over again. And that's exactly what we do here. You come here and you do the same monotonous routines over and over and over again. Each day is a little bit more unique in it, the characteristics around it, but for the most part, you're doing the same boring stuff over and over again. I'm 24, Alex. I'm going to be 25 this year. Would you say being a trader influencer has many I mean, yeah. Like YouTube, um, you can, have an LLC. You can write off taxes for your business, especially with YouTube. I mean, just in general, you're your own independent contractor. So, I mean, even trading in general, I'd recommend getting an LLC. Of course, accidental, man. Don't ever limit yourself to your age. I mean, I, I've seen plenty of people who look at Kit ICT Concepts. I mean, I think he's just your age or a little bit older than you, and he's still pushing for it. So, thank you, Danny. You seriously have been a huge supporter of me, and I really do appreciate it. So, as much as I can give back to you, I will do that. So here we've racked it off of this Bissy in here with the breaker. Again, it's easy in hindsight to say I could have went long in here, but we're waiting for more information. For me, we're still in a bearish dealing range, basically from that dealing range high to low. And I would need to have some really good information and evidence that we'd want to move higher. Because there's no shifts. If you're looking at market structure, you're looking at the 15-minute, looking at the 5-minute, well, there's no shifts above old highs. So in here, we'd be trying to predict a very low bottom. And I'm not trying to do that. Yeah, see, there you go, Chris. Ken, I mean, age doesn't matter. That's just a limiting belief, in my opinion. I think you can succeed at any age. Wellness, yep. I mean, man, there's so many people. You think you're the only one, but I mean, there's thousands of other people probably just like you. Yeah, somebody said, Lord, now we're in the Fair Value Gap. Yeah, but I just don't. I don't have enough evidence to short this or long it, so that's just me. I would love to wonder who the oldest person is learning ICT's concepts. I'm sure there's 70, 80-year-olds learning this stuff. I mean, maybe. But I've talked to my parents about it, and they have no interest. I think it's a little too much tech savviness. Which, I mean, in reality, it's really not. That's great, Tom. Yeah, I mean, I've been learning well, not ICT, but in particular trading since I was 18. Found it out when I was in college, and I dropped out the next semester. I said, I'm done with this stuff. I don't need no school. And then 2 years later, I found ICT. So looking at YM in here, 64. I mean, that's crazy, man. Congrats. Major respect. 62. I mean, geez, almighty. It's crazy. And my parents are in their 50s, mid 50s. YM in here, you can see I'm just annotating the breaker that we reacted off of. But nothing too much right now. Danny. That's funny, man. I don't doubt it. So we have about 30 more minutes left of the silver bullet. There's not enough information for me to do anything. And I even looked, ICT was chatting today in our charter membership. He was saying he was doing nothing. So even without him saying that, I still obviously would believe that. But if he ever states that, it's kind of like, all right, if he's not going to do anything, then I probably shouldn't be doing anything. Wolf, that's great, man. Whenever I have a son or daughter, man, that's right out the womb. I'm putting an ICT video on, putting headphones in their ears. They can listen to Michael. We don't need Nickelodeon or any Dora the Explorer. We need ICT. Make him a savage. OT from open short. Yeah, I just described. I mean, I can see where that would be an option, but with YM being out of sync with the other two, and dollar index, I'm still unsure if it wants to really drop lower in here. If it starts dropping off lower in here, YM continues to move higher, I would particularly not want to short this. So do you see how I'm weighing the other options? Is it really, Alex? That's crazy. I wouldn't doubt it. I think that's a very corrupt, satanic industry, all of Hollywood. ICT quoting. I mean, I do that every single day in the day logs. So I'm not sure if you haven't kept up or not, but I mean, even yesterday, I started with top down, monthly, all the way down to a 1 minute yesterday on NQ. Even dollar index. I think somebody just asked what time frames I look at. I look at every single time frame. So it's very important. You need to be looking at everything. The only way you're going to get good at a 1 minute is looking at a monthly, a weekly, a daily. Yeah, so I'm looking at dollar index right now. I know it's not on the screen. I have a monitor above me. To me, it's not really willing to displace lower in here. So it may just be a no trade type of day. And to me, those are the best days because if I can review it after and be like, man, there was nothing in there, I'm happy I did nothing. I didn't engage. I talked about this a lot in my previous daily logs. Is to me, you have mental capital tokens. And what that means is, to me, there's only so much mental capital tokens that you can spend in a week before, once you spend those mental capital tokens, all of your bad habits, all of your demons, the things that you do not want to play out in the charts will unfold. So for me, I'm trying to spend as least amount of mental capital tokens. And how do you spend them? Well, that's engaging with the market. Because every time you engage with the market, you're going to invoke some type of emotion. And if I keep spending them, right? If I took 2, 3, 4, 5 trades today, and let's say 3, 4 of them were losses, and I was upset, I was mad that I made a mistake, I start tilting, right? All those emotions become accumulated. Because if you ever wonder why out of nowhere you just blow your entire account, you blow everything, and then you're looking back at the day and you're like, man, what happened? That's a large part due to accumulated emotions. You're not seeing it because it's a day by day and a build up, even week by week or month by month, year by year. If you've had a lot of losses, you're not resolving these issues, you're not going back and seeing what you did wrong and how to fix that. All of those become built up. It's a built up anger, basically, like energy. And then out of nowhere, one day you make one mistake and you just say, fuck it, man. I'm just going to go into this market. I'm going to I'm going to do something. And then it hands you your ass. And then that you get even more upset. So for me, I'm paying attention to how many mental capital tokens I'm spending in a day or in a week. It's very, very important. If I'm going to spend a mental capital token, it better be a setup that's worth doing it on, because I know myself very well. Even somebody who's experienced, I know how fast I can tilt. I know exactly the lead up, the build up to it. If you want to go into psychology, because I mean, we're sitting here, there's nothing to really talk about in price, if you're wondering. Let's dig into some psychology, yeah? Put a 1 in the chat, you want to talk about some psychology, because I could talk for days about that. And I'll bust out a book and some notes in here. Only a few ones? Come on, chat. Let's go. There we go. I can see all the newer traders. Probably, I only want to talk about technicals. All right. I'm just slightly looking at price. Okay, good. If something is worth noting, I'm not trying to get too distracted with this conversation. Just give me a second here before we start talking about it. All right, so the book that I've read that made the biggest difference in my psychology, and somebody just mentioned it, it's called The Mental Game of Trading by Jared Tindler. So to me, this is the ICT of psychology. It's the only book I've ever read that solved the majority of my psychology issues. You're going to learn psychology through your own experience, and you're going to learn that through a lot of losses and lessons. B, this book helped me solve a lot of issues, because I'll simply put it, this book, and you can do this even without reading the book, I'll give you some pointers. You have certain emotions, such as fear, anger, greed, confidence, and discipline. I used to think that, it was a lot of my discipline issues, that, I didn't have enough discipline to stop doing the things I was doing. In reality, I wasn't recognizing the buildup to these emotions. So for an example, with tilt, which means you get angry, right? And you revenge trade. If I can recognize the buildup to these emotions, and you do that by recording either yourself or keeping a notepad next to you, be a detective in your session. Figure out the certain characteristics and the buildups to these emotions. So for me, I would either start leaning closer to my monitor, my hands would start getting sweaty, I would start saying things verbally out loud, like fuck this, I hate this, why is this not going my way? All these little key things, and it's going to be unique for yourself. All these little buildups are going to be indications, right? Like an indicator to you that you're going to start tilting. And if you can break that, if you can see that in real time and break it, that is where your real progression starts to happen. Let me focus on the charts here for a second. I'll get back to the psychology. I may have to do that on a weekend Q&A, because I could sit here for hours and talk about psychology. But in general, if just based off of that discussion I just had, I would highly recommend reading that book, The Mental Game of Trading by Jared Tindler. Sorry. So we closed above this old Sibian here, which would act as an inversion level. We closed above this old Sibi, so see if that wants to be treated as support. I still just don't really know what dollar index really wants to do. I would love the confirmation that dollar index is going to drop lower. Because if we can get that, then I would be fairly certain that we could long this. I'm not going to be particularly looking at shorts in here. So I'm going to take this away for a second. And I'm going to scan back out to the higher time frame. So you see me do this constantly throughout a session, is pulling myself back out of the time frame I was looking at and going way back out to the higher time frame. So even the daily in here, you can look, this inversion, even though we wicked beneath it, if we close inside of it, it still may lend support to move higher. So I'm not completely abandoning the bullish idea due to dollar index possibly dropping off lower. We have a bullish SMT with YM, which I discussed at the beginning of the live stream. We have YM, which is completely decoupled away from ES and NQ, and it's reacting off of the bullish breaker moving higher. And it looks like dollar index is dropping off lower. So for me to take a short in here, I have too much against me to do that. For longs, I'm going to see if we have enough information to do so. So hopefully that makes sense as far as what I'm doing and weighing my options. And if this thing reacted off the fair value gap and drifted off lower, then it is what it is. I'm kind of just standing on one side of the argument. I'm just going to, stay there. I'm not going to be 50-50 on it. Ever check out The Biggest Loser Wins? I have not. I've heard of it, but I can't tell you enough or stress you enough about the book I recommended. It is the holy grail in my opinion. I mean, once you read it, you're going to understand and realize. Prodigy, I'm glad to hear that, man. I appreciate the words. So in the beginning of the live stream, we were looking at this idea of possibly looking at a short in here, because you can see from the dealing range high, which is high up here, down to this low, we're inside of the SIBI, and we're inside of a premium. Now, dollar index, if we wanted to go short, dollar index would have to continuously move higher, and then YM would, to me, have to move back in sync with ES and NQ, which would be moving off lower. So you can see it in my analysis room, my voice. I don't have a concrete idea. I mean, if you've been here for the last live streams, you can tell when I'm confident and certain about a certain idea, because obviously I take it and it's easy for me to see. But right now it's like I compare sometimes the market to the weather. It's a little bit foggy, so I don't have enough clarity to make a decision, and it may just be me. So remember, if you're ever on live streams, your opinion matters the most. No matter your experience, your opinion matters the most. I'm just here giving my thoughts, right? Has my opinion changed on the daily bias? Not yet, but I'm even looking at dollar index right now. We're moving off higher. So this is I guess an example of, if I'm uncertain on an idea like this, where going short in here off the 15-minute, the 5-minute, if I'm uncertain on this, where I don't really want to short off the 5-minute, I can wait for a displacement away from our point of interest, and then on the 1-minute, if I can see an entry, then I can get into there, and at least I know that we've reacted off of this. It's given me enough confirmation, and it's not a premature entry. $367. If we can bump this up to 400, that would be fantastic. I appreciate all those who are new and who are watching. I appreciate you guys. So what I'm going to be looking at in the next about 4 minutes is the macro that we're moving into. which is from my time 9:50 to 10:10. New York local time, it's going to be from 10:50 to 11:10. So keep it in mind, I'm on my own central time. What's going on, Strip? Good to see you here. Hope you've been enjoying. If I wasn't live streaming, I would have turned off my computer already, and I would have went to the gym and went on about my day. So sometimes with live streaming, it's not as transparent to what I would be doing because I'm trying to provide information and read the market. But on a day like today, I'd rather just wait for tomorrow. Oh, really, FEG? I like your name. Did I take a trade already? No, I did not. I haven't taken one trade today. Sat still, done nothing. And this goes back to the whole mental capital token spending thing. I mean, I already took a trade yesterday. We're already up on the week. If I'm going to take another trade, then I'm going to wait for something that's in my favor. For me, if I was recommending to a newer student, I'd be looking at 1 to 2 trades a week max. And even if you get one winner like yesterday, and it's hard on the beginning of the week, but if you get a winner, let's say on a Monday or Tuesday, then just be done for the week. Sit still. Build that consistent track record so you can give yourself confidence and experience knowing that you can do this consistently. Because I've been in a lot of times where I've been up on a Monday and Tuesday, and by the time Friday comes, I've lost all of that and even more. So to me, if you can just be disciplined enough to take 1 or maybe 2 trades in a week and call it that right there, that to me is you're finding consistency. Do I use the RTH gap? Yeah. So I had it on. But I think it went away. So that's a good point. Thank you for pointing that out. RTH gaps are fantastic. I love them. You can use them as drawn liquidities. You can also use them as levels in confluence with your model. So if price was inside of the RTH gap, particularly this is a large RTH gap, but if price is ever inside of an RTH gap and you have a short or long bias, then you can utilize that as confluence. So you get that by toggling this electronic to regular trading hours. So this was the close of yesterday, and this was the open of today. So there's a large liquidity void in price. So if we are truly bullish, it would want to seek that to close it in, or at least dig into 25, 50% of it. If we're really, really bearish, it may leave it open. So again, that's RTH gap is just a confluence for me, and it's used as a draw on liquidity as well. So then I will toggle back to electronic trading hours, and you can see that it's not there. So for me, I just take away these lines, and I'll probably just move it over here. That way I have it in the back of my mind that it is there. So we're moving into this last silver bullet macro. So between this time window, it could spool towards a certain draw in liquidity. Not always, it's not for certain, not guaranteed, but it could. Sometimes the macros would just give you a good bit of information if you're uncertain. Especially if you've been consolidating all morning, and give you a good brief overview. Yeah, if you look at dollar index, if you look at YM, NQ, and ES, they're all in sync with each other, which is not good. I don't want to see dollar index moving in sync with these. So it's a decoupled market. That's low probability. So I'll probably give it 10, 20 more minutes. If I don't see anything, then I'm logging off and I'm done for the day. And that's that. I'll come back tomorrow and see what price is done. And I'm happy about what I did today. I'm congratulating myself in my journal. You have to be your biggest cheerleader. I know ICT said this a lot, and it was something that I kind of disregarded a lot because I always thought that being super hard on myself in my journal was good. And it's not, because all of that will come out in your own trading. In your own journal, you seriously, even if you've had the worst day you've ever had, you blew the most amount of money, your prop firm challenge, whatever it is, you still have to be your biggest cheerleader and really highlighting the things that you did well. And even if you did a lot of things wrong, just, stating in your journal that you can do better. That it sounds so corny, and but to me, when you congratulate yourself, you cheerlead yourself, that's so positive when you hop onto these charts. Because if I was super negative on myself, I'm like, man, why did I do that? I'm never going to make it. I'm stupid. I'm this, I'm that. Then I get onto these charts, and that's going to unfold into my reality. I'm going to start believing that, and I'm never going to actually be successful. So it's really about the way you talk to yourself, even internally in your thoughts and even in your journal. It's very, very important that you pay attention to these little, they seem not important, but they very much are. Oh, yeah, if you can hit the like button, I'd appreciate it. So dollar index is ripping off higher. It's not willing to move lower in here. So yeah, I think there's a balance, Lord, between being hard on yourself and being, just very, very negative. There's a difference between self encouragement and positive, like what you could do better, even if you got lucky, um, versus being, very harsh on yourself. You don't ever want to use negative wording like "I'm stupid," "Why did I do this?" Those type of things is what you need to get out of your own journal and self-dialogue. Do you have any tips for improving intraday bias and drawn liquidity? Um, that's just more or less experience and paying attention to every day, and having somebody like myself, somebody who's more experienced, lend you that experience and telling you. It's why I like the daily logs, because um, you can get that experience from somebody else. It's what ICT did for us. He was pointing to the drawn liquidity every single day. He was giving a recap of the day, and it helped my pattern recognition and seeing, like, okay, this is where we're going to head the next day, and this is how I predict the next day, and this is what a low probability environment looks like. What are the characteristics of that? There's a lot of things that play into the drawn liquidity and bias. I just explained why this is Central Time because I'm in Central Time. I've accustomed myself to it. I know ICT says to use New York local time, but for me, I've been around long enough to know what his times are and match it with mine. Enjoyed the psychology. Yeah, I mean, if I could, I would just rant about psychology all day, because people, ask, how did I hate saying this? How did you get so good at reading price? How did you do this? How did you do that? Majority of it was just working on myself, alone, not on social media, doing all the hard things. Can I make a video on showing a journal in the future? Yeah, of course. There's a platform called Edge Walk, WONK. I think it's probably the cheapest out of all the journaling platforms out there, and I think it's really, really useful. I mean, if you want to go free, you can create a free Discord, a free Telegram, and I have a video on my YouTube called Trading Psychology, where I go over actually a journal, so feel free to pop over to that. Good to see you in here, Chris. Welcome all the new people. So remember, we're inside of that little macro time, and dollar index is tearing off higher. So I wouldn't be particularly favor of the longs in here. No reason to do so. I don't want to do anything. I'm just going to put it that way. I've said it the whole stream. I don't want to do anything. I don't see a reason for it. So I appreciate that, Yen Evo. Yeah, I just try my best to teach, man. I mean, that's the whole point of these, right? Like, I could sit here in silence and just, obviously not trade, or, trade in front of you and just to sit in silence, but I think the whole point is to try to teach while you're in a live environment, much like ICT did for us. How do you identify order blocks? I'm struggling with that. Um, Again, having, I think, number one, somebody who's experienced and knows what they're talking about, help lend you that experience so you can start seeing it. Because if you have somebody constantly keep pointing to an order block every single day, you're going to start to know what an order block looks like. If you don't have somebody like that, which obviously I hope I'm a help to that, then going into a backtesting, platform or even a trading view, and trying your best to just figure out, what order blocks look like. But to me, going through ICT's content, going through somebody who's more experienced, and having them point to it. It's the reason why I don't do videos where this is what an order block is, and this is a simplified order block. I don't do that because it's too vague. It's too little information. But if I'm able to sit down every single day, I can show you, all right, this is what an order block looks like today. This is what an order block looks like the next day. It's going to help you a lot more. One simple trainer video is never going to help you. Honestly, it does nothing for you besides give you a false sense of confidence. That's the reason why I don't make them. I could sit here and make clickbait video, but it's pointless. All right, Martin. Hope you have a good day. Appreciate you tuning in. So, dollar index made a higher high in here, and if you look at the daily and how much time we have left, I wouldn't suspect that dollar index would want to close off lower today. I don't see that. Dollar index, especially with forex pairs, their PM session is not like index futures. It's not as volatile. Usually by end of New York, it's closed off. It's usually will remain sideways. So the fact that dollar index is closing like this, potentially above the SIBI on the daily. Let me pull this over. So we're closing above that, and if we do close above it, then dollar index may want to reach towards the highs in here. So how would you use that if you're trading on Q or ES? Well, then those would potentially move off lower. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, even Solitude, I see order blocks as well. I'm just not, that's not my particular PD array that I like to use. I just use that as more or less a guidance. But for an example, on the 1 minute, this is the last down close candle here. This would be a bullish order block. I guess a good point to any PD array. A PD array can only be valid when it's in line with the narrative, it's in line with intermarket relationships, it's in line with SMT as well. Do I have a particular, to be honest with you, bro, it was really the 2022 model. Like, I hear a lot of charter memberships, charter members say the same thing. For me, when I joined his mentorship, I was already through his free YouTube stuff, and I went through the whole year with him. And to me, it was like he threw everything at me like a fire hose, he says. And I was just so bombarded with everything. And I was looking at every single PD array to enter off of. I was looking at everything. It was just too much. And when he dropped the 2022, it was like, okay, it simplified what I should be looking for. And then I was able to kind of incorporate everything else that I learned. And then as the years have moved on, I've incorporated my own little models. I think the biggest thing is building your own model and finding what PD array you like the most. And once you can do that, I think starting super simple is the easiest point. I was way too advanced, or at least in my knowledge, to be trading. I knew way too much, and I didn't even know what to do with it. It was like somebody gave me, the best sword in the world, but I did not know how to wield it. I didn't know what to do with it. So NQ's moving higher with dollar index. I just, there's nothing in here. I don't really care. If this thing tears off higher the rest of the day, I could care less. That's silver bullet in a nutshell. So, to me, if you look at the whole session, I mean, really wasn't much in here. You could have took a couple short-term scalp longs, but I explained why I wouldn't be doing that. And that's my personal opinion, why I wouldn't be doing that. Tom, appreciate you. Thank you very much. I'll sit here until the end of the macro and just kind of see what plays out. But I am done for the day. And you have to have enough discipline, especially if you have a rule where you're only trading the silver bullet, to have enough discipline to just turn off the charts and walk away. I know sometimes it's hard, and these candlesticks can be much like Medusa, where you just kind of get entrapped with it. You get fascinated with all these candlesticks and movement. You have to pull yourself out of it and just have something else to do for the day. Like for me, I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm going to go do the rest of my day. So if you have nothing else planned and you have nothing else to do in your life, then yeah, you're just going to be, completely wrapped up in this trading thing, which is not good. It's not healthy. I've done it. All right, Wolf. I know it's late there. Hope you have a great night. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you tomorrow. Do I also trade the last 10 minutes of the macro? Yeah, sometimes I'll let it play out. If there wasn't anything like today, I'll let it play out the last 10 minutes of the macro, and if there's something that's super clean and nice, then I'll stay in it for the the remainder. Here is. Later, bro. Yeah, I'll see you later. Thank you for tuning in. What am I working out today? That's a good question. I hit back yesterday. Chest. I might hit buys and tries. Johnny, really appreciate that. Have a good day, man. When do I do my daily analysis? I usually post it at night. Yeah, of course. Don't skip late day. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, so you can see in this macro we're getting a lot of movement, which is good. So you can see how I was keen on not really wanting to short this. And there's just a lot of different factors in here. This could be a PM session type of day, which I won't be live streaming. But even in here, when I'm trying to visualize like the rest of the day, sometimes you can do that, is, visualizing. I couldn't visualize just a rapid, bunch of candlesticks just moving higher. I can't see that. So we may just move into consolidation, may do nothing. And that's just the way I'm viewing it. And I'm okay if this thing completely ripped off higher today, went right to my target. I wouldn't care. There's always going to be another day. What helped me the most, I think, just a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. Truthfully, it really, really was. It's a lot of pain and suffering. So beautiful example of the macro in play here. Nice 20-minute window. Moved off of that inversion. I was able to disregard the short in here that we were originally looking for due to the information. Do I care that I've missed a long? Nope, don't care. Small little fair value gap in here. Yep, of course. I'm just gonna sit here for another 5 minutes and I'm gonna call it a stream. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're new here, like, subscribe. Appreciate everybody. Seriously, it means a lot. I've been growing a lot, so see what we can do the next few weeks and months here. Fantastic CRH. Boo. Of course, of course. So I guess a good thought this ran through my head is, at times you can look at hindsight like this, like, man, you know, I could have been long in here and I could have taken these longs and seen where all these entries were. Um, but on the contrary, I'm happy that I didn't take a loss. I'm happy that I didn't short this, because that was at one point a semi-valid idea to go short in here. So you have to look at hindsight with a little bit of grain of salt, because um, in real time there was a moment where I said, you know, we could possibly short in here, and then I disregarded it, and I'm happy that I didn't. So even though there was a long opportunity in hindsight, I'm happy that I didn't short it. I'm happy I didn't take a loss, and I'm happy that I was able to disregard that. So, Nate, awesome, man. And even if you see somebody on a day like today, like I saw in the chat multiple times, like, you know, I took the long from here, I'm never mad or upset at myself that I didn't take a long or take the trade that they took, because you all have your individual models and the way you uniquely view the market. So for me, it just wasn't in my style today. And it's something for a newer trader that's I struggled with a lot, is like, I you don't have enough confidence in yourself and your system yet. So you see other people taking trades, you're like, man, why didn't I take that trade? You have to mold yourself into your own model and into your own style, and that's only going to come through time. And at one point you'll become so confident that when other people take trades and you didn't, you're perfectly okay with it. You don't care. Because much like yesterday where I took a long and we were able to profit, some people didn't take that long. So there's so many ways to skin a cat in this market and with these concepts that um, I'm never. I'm actually very happy when people are like, you know, I took this trade and it made sense to me, and I'm never upset that I didn't take it. Um, there's a huge difference, Lord. I don't treat challenge accounts the same as I treat funded accounts, and that's just the way I view it. Because I'm not trying to spend a bunch of time on a challenge account. That's just me personally. If you have enough experience and data to show you that you're profitable, you can over leverage on a challenge account. Get the challenge account, and then just actually be conservative, remain, you know, disciplined with your funded account, and treat it like a funded account. Um, for me, challenge accounts, I'm not trying to spend a lot of time, because time is money. I'm not saying to not, you know, to gamble, but to me, there's a lot of challenge accounts that I've gambled on and I've gotten passed on them. I don't brag or boast about passing challenges, because it's easy to do that at times, especially if you over leverage and you gamble. But for me, as soon as I move into that funded account, I'm taking it extremely serious. It's a business at that point. So, all right, I'll see you, bro. Indicators don't lie. Give me a follow on Twitter if you're on Twitter. If not, shoot me a DM on Telegram if you can. Yeah, Jet. Sometimes you like the one that I'm funded with my funded futures. I think I had 2 resets, and it was $100 to reset it. So I don't care as long as I know the ROI is going to be okay, meaning like my return on investment. Then I'm okay with it. I'm obviously not trying to spend thousands of dollars and keep resetting it and gambling. There's a certain point where that becomes obviously unprofitable. But if I know if I can keep it underneath a certain amount of money and I can get that money back, like I'm already up 1,000 on my funded futures, so I already got back my investment and more, and obviously I can keep building on that. So sometimes, you know, I think futures, you know, funding programs are a lot easier than forex by far. I think forex is, or at least FX profit firms, their profit targets are a little outrageous, man. I mean, some of them you have to make 15%, you know, 8% or 10% one month and 5% on another. I mean, that's a lot, man. That's, you know, some long-term investors, they don't even make 15% a year. Like it's such an outrageous percentage to look for. It's crazy to me. And if you're trying to act in a challenge account how you would act in a funded, I mean, it could take you months to do it, and you could have been doing that on a live account. So the book that I mentioned was The Mental Game of Trading by Jared Tindler. So we're at the end of this macro. I'm going to try not to get caught up in reading all the chat. I really do appreciate all you guys. That's going to be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something. If you're new here, subscribe, welcome. I will be live tomorrow at the same time, about 10-15 minutes before the open. So, hope you guys have a good day. Be safe.